Hey guys, this is Hunt for Games. I was fortunate enough to get a pre-order in on the Steam Link and Steam Controller, which both arrived Friday, so I've had a weekend to spend some time with it and thought I'd toss out my impressions. I've loved Steam streaming for a long time, so the option to have a cheaper set-top box purely for that purpose, connected to any TV in the house, was definitely appealing to me. Um, the Steam controller, although I have some reservations, I figured I'd had to try it out. It's very different, obviously. If you haven't checked it out, read up on it, watch some videos of people using it. It's very unique, with these pads instead of the traditional thumbsticks you may be more familiar with. But so far, I've got mixed impressions with it. So let's get into it. Steam Link, to start out, obviously has a lot of the same settings that you're familiar with from the Steam in-home streaming settings. Network configuration from wired to any wireless configurations you might do, including 5 gigahertz, which I highly recommend if you're not wired. Or, some system settings, like just checking for standard updates, and then streaming settings for fast, balanced, beautiful, and advanced options for what resolution you'd like to display at. I usually use 1080p. Obviously, that's dependent on your network configuration. You can go lower or display resolution, which I've seen seems to throw a wrench into things if you're running, say, like a 1440p or higher desktop. So let's start streaming here. It's as easy as just click and go. I am doing all this right now with the Steam controller. I've been told that the 360 and Xbox One controllers also will work with the Steam Link. Haven't tried them yet because I've been, testing out the Steam controller, but I have no reason to doubt that. So you might notice that immediately I am streaming. The Steam Link does very little on its own. Even the Steam library itself, I am streaming from my main PC. So honestly, it behaves pretty much identically to what I've seen from Steam in-home streaming. If you've ever done that before to like a laptop in your house, the main difference being that if you've been streaming to an older device via a wireless connection on 2.4 gigahertz, the Steam Link does have 5 gigahertz, which is far superior for game streaming. I have another video where I go through some of the benefits of various network configurations that I'll link on the screen here. But I highly recommend 5 gigahertz. Obviously, you need a router capable of that. If you have one, great. If you don't, 2.4 gigahertz will work, but you may see some hiccups or stutters depending on other interfering objects and wireless networks in the house that you're trying to stream it. Obviously, wired is ultimate, but that's very difficult to come by because chances are you have your PC plugged in wired, and that may be nowhere near the TV you want to stream to. That's the whole point, is that you're streaming to some other part of the house. So I've got my Steam streaming analytics on, so we can get a feel for how quickly, what the latency's like, if we're seeing any hiccups. I am on 5 gigahertz right now, and actually very near my router and PC, unfortunately, by necessity to do this recording. Let's try and boot up Borderlands 2, and I can explain some of the positives, negatives of things I've been seeing, both with the Steam Link and the Steam controller. So if we try to play, first thing you're going to notice is that Steam streaming doesn't always work perfectly with launchers. And Borderlands 2 has a launcher. As you can see, my cursor isn't quite lining up with what I'm trying to click. This is actually one of the better experiences because I can enter into the game. But it was a problem with Steam streaming. It has been for as long as I can remember. I was kind of hoping they'd have it resolved by now, especially with the Steam Link and, Steam boxes coming out, but I guess that was a bit too much to hope for. So this is obviously a first-person shooter. The Steam controller has been advertised to be able to handle any kind of game I throw at it, but without a right stick to aim, I wasn't really sure how I'd feel about it. Obviously, so far, the latency is very good. It's under 30 milliseconds, which is honestly faster than most televisions that don't have a game mode, and even some televisions that do have a game mode. Any spikes that we're seeing, the dark blue is what's spiking, which is my main desktop while it's loading the game. So now the game is running. We're seeing a little bit longer latency, but overall it feels fine. I don't think it's a problem. So honestly, I was very impressed with how Borderlands 2 felt. I wouldn't equate it to saying it's as good as a what am I trying to say? As good as a regular controller with a right thumbstick for aiming, but I mean, I can aim pretty well with this. I think with more practice, I get pretty good at it, and that isn't the absolute best part. But I mean, sometimes we have to turn very quickly. All of a sudden, I'm like, where the hell am I? What has happened? But overall, pretty good experience, especially if you want to have one controller that can handle everything you need it to, which is sort of the point of the Steam controller. The main benefit to the Steam controller is how configurable it is. You can obviously... Oh, this damn overlay is getting in the way. Let me hide it. You can configure manually what any of your buttons or pads are capable of doing. That goes down to as deep as you can have mode shifting. So if I'm holding down, say, the right grip underneath the controller, I could change what this pad does or how it behaves. I can change what the click function does, and the pads are very sensitive. I can only speak positively of how they feel. Unfortunately, some games just don't seem to work very well with a pad style aiming. But in an attempt to make it as comfortable as possible, I can browse community generated templates. As you can see, people have already uploaded some templates for a lot of games. Borderlands 2 is one of the few that has plenty already. Or I can use one of the 3 templates that they've already provided: keyboard and mouse setup for just generally any keyboard and mouse game, a gamepad configuration for games that have native gamepad support, and then gamepad with high precision camera aim, which is what I've been using for Borderlands 2. It allows for slightly more precise movements under the right pad, and feels a lot better, although it does affect your ability to quickly rotate. It's felt pretty good. I could play the game like this, and I may continue to do that. Third-person games, such as Tomb Raider, Batman, Mad Max, what was the one I was messing around with? Shadow of Mordor. I did not like the thumb pad style of aiming at all. I could not get used to it. It felt very awkward and uncomfortable. That is just, my opinion and my experience so far, but I don't think I would play any of those types of games with this style of controller and aiming. I just did not find it to be an enjoyable experience. First person seems to be fairly good. I don't think that is the strong suit of the new controller, though. The Steam controller's biggest asset is what I'm going to show you next. So the biggest question, since we were made aware that they were making a Steam controller and we were told what they were trying to achieve, has been, will it actually be able to replace a keyboard and mouse? Because Steam has claimed that they will allow you to replace a keyboard and mouse in games that require that with this Steam controller and play those games comfortably. And to answer whether or not they've achieved that, I would say kind of. So here we've got Path of Exile, a classic action RPG style point and click to move. You cannot set WASD to movement, so the left thumbstick can't be used in that fashion. This is the kind of game that it's really the kind of question of, like, can you possibly play this with the Steam controller? And I would say so far, I mean, yeah, I kind of. I don't know if it's my preferred method of play, but I have it set up, and to the Steam controller's credit, we as in a friend of mine and I spent a lot of time trying out different community templates, which actually this list is much larger than it was a week ago. So clearly people are already starting to get in on this and try to come up with a great configuration. That's interesting. I'm interested to try this left stick mouse as an option. Anyways, so what I ended up with is the right pad I'm using as my mouse. The right grip underneath is my right click. And then abilities and other things are various places on the controller, which can all be configured to your liking. So I can move the mouse around very casually, and then if I hold down the right pad underneath the controller, I I click and move, and that feels natural. Movement feels fine. Um, I'd say where it fails slightly is in actual combat. So this game requires very precise clicks to determine what enemy you're gonna attack, and I'll see if I can find an enemy real quick to explain what I'm talking about. But okay, so we've got this group of enemies, and if I want to attack one of them, I have to click on it. But like that can be a little bit. I'm already changing accidentally which enemy I'm attacking, and if I screw up and like accidentally run past, readjusting that can be kind of difficult. Is it playable? Yes. Is it the best configuration ever? Not really, but it's totally possible. And like I said, there's a lot of configuration options. So with more practice and different configurations, this may become my preferred method of play. I'm a longtime supporter of controller-based gaming in general. I think it's a far more relaxing experience, and I can play much longer sessions without growing tired, like I do with keyboard and mouse. I think keyboard and mouse is great. I can't relax as much with keyboard and mouse. So I love that there's a controller that is trying to allow me to play like this. Now, I know some of you are going to say, Hunter, there have been gamepad mappers forever. You could have done this with a 360 controller, but that's a little bit more annoying. I've got to have a third-party software, which I have to set up beforehand. I've got to, configure everything. If I don't like a configuration option, I can jump right into Steam here and change it right now. Obviously, games have to be launched through Steam for this to work, but I think this setup is awesome. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to change settings, and honestly, everything so far has worked very well. That doesn't mean it's the best controller experience I've ever had, but I love the flexibility of it, and allowing games like this that I've always felt were like just on the verge of being playable with controller to really customize that experience and allow you to play that way if you so desire. Also, it does allow me to have just one controller in my living room where I'm not going to have all the controller configurations I've ever owned. Maybe no keyboard and mouse, and quick pick up a game like this that I've got a few minutes before dinner. I can stream this to my living room and run around and kill a couple things. I might not do end game boss fights and difficult content with this configuration because it's not the easiest. But then again, maybe I will. Maybe with more practice, I'll find that I really enjoy it. So what about a game like Elder Scrolls Online? Elder Scrolls Online is actually available on the PS4 and Xbox One and has controller support on those devices. Unfortunately, although it was promised, we have still not received the controller support on PC. I have a feeling it's because they realized that all the PC players would never switch over to the console version if they could just use the controller on the PC. But I don't know if that actually is true. So, with, very simple, this game almost worked, I hate to say like out of the box, but with very little configuration, I was immediately in and could, move around with the left stick, look around with the right stick, attack, block with the left trigger, attack with the right trigger. Everything felt natural. It felt exactly what you'd expect coming off of, say, like Skyrim. It handles pretty much identically. I later set it up so that different abilities were mapped to different buttons, and that can be set to everybody's personal preference. But a game like this works really well because there are a set number of abilities usable by your character, which fits very well with a system with a set number of buttons, say, on a controller. I think this is actually the best experience I've had yet with the Steam controller. It works incredibly well. I have nothing but praise for how it works with a game like Elder Scrolls Online. I think a lot of third-person MMOs could be exactly the market. I've always played Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy XI before it with controllers and loved that setup. For MMOs where you're playing for long periods at a time, it's really nice to have some comfort and to be able to just relax. Even especially for some of the simpler content, do some dumb stuff with a controller. You don't have to sit at a desk. You can just relax on a couch. And I think that the Steam controller with games like that could work really well. You can configure it to whatever amount of precision and need you have, and move on from there. On the opposite of that coin is Guild Wars 2. Now, while I've had decent success with Guild Wars 2, moving around in the world and looking around feels all right. I still feel like I have more tinkering to go. Initially, the left and right weren't strafing. Instead, they were turning, so that felt a little bit awkward. But this is all preference, and again, it's very customizable. I feel like I will get it to a point where I am comfortable playing with the controller. I'm just not quite there yet. As you can see, though, it's totally possible, and it would be a game that I could play on the couch, whereas, currently I can't. I need a keyboard and mouse, and I like that this controller offers that kind of flexibility to me. Overall, I think I might have rambled a bit, but the Steam Link box does exactly what it told me it would. I've had no complaints with it so far. There have been a few bugs with Steam in-home streaming in general that have been there since its conception. If you're totally not willing to have any hiccups ever during your experience, I'd avoid Steam streaming, or honestly game streaming in general, because it's still sort of in its, I don't want to say infancy, because it's been out for about a year now, but it still has problems. The Steam controller, you're either going to love it or hate it. I don't really know how to describe it to you. I think it's a very unique device. Is it my favorite controller ever? No, but it is very useful for what it does. I still haven't tried it with an RTS like StarCraft 2, and I probably never will. I don't think I would enjoy that experience, but you know what? I should probably say don't knock it till you try it. Maybe I will. I love the flexibility. I love how much customization is available, along with the sharing of templates between various Steam users, making it very easy to pick up and play games that you don't really feel like tinkering with the control configurations. You can download somebody else's template and see if it works for you. All that being said, it's obviously not perfect in many games. I don't think any configuration changes are going to make it my preferred controller for third-person action games. I really didn't like it in that space. But I think it's an amazing controller for trying to bridge that gap for games that you feel like could be played with a controller but have no controller support. That's a really weird space, but it is uniquely advantageous to Steam streaming, where you're trying to play games on the couch that maybe weren't meant for couch gaming. I think ultimately the Steam controller is a perfect pairing for the Steam Link. I don't know if users will love it as much if they're not planning on using it for that purpose. If you're just going to use it with your main PC, I don't know, try it out if it seems neat to you. It is a unique experience, and I think more practice will improve that for me. I love its customability. I love the options for how you can configure it. They're seemingly endless. It's definitely unique. I just don't know if it'll be the ultimate controller like Steam is sort of pressing it to be. But I really like what it's going to do for my MMO experience on the couch. I think a lot of keyboard and mouse games could be playable very, very easily with this Steam controller on the couch. It allows for that combination of controller plus the ability to use the mouse more like you'd expect to sort through inventory and other things like that. It's all very comfortable. So I'm really excited to keep using it. Let me know in the comments whether or not you're still excited about this or interested or think it's just a piece of crap. Definitely let me know in the comments if you've used it yourself and any tips you might have about how to ease my transition into using it with various game titles. Anyways, let me know also in the comments if you have any questions about any of the hardware I'm running, the Steam Link configuration. Definitely check out my other video about Steam in-home streaming in general. And like the video if you liked it, and please subscribe for more. I've got more hardware stuff coming. I probably won't get a Steam box, but we'll see. You never know. And thanks for watching.
We're descending toward Hill Valley, California at 4:29 p.m. on Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
2015? You mean we're in the future?